Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tori and this is Holy City Mystic. Thank you so much for being here. So a lot of you guys are here because of my Yod content. Well, I went back and looked at my first Yod video recently. I had a friend staying over at my house and she had a Yod in her chart and she's not super familiar with astrology, and so she was trying to get me to explain it, and I was like, well, I actually did a video on this, let's just watch it together and then you can tell me what questions you have. Well, I went back and watched the video for the first time in probably over a year. Like, I made it 2 years ago, and I was like, you know what, I want to do another pass at this. Like, I think that video is fine, but I want to do one just kind of where I'm talking more about how to synthesize your Yod into your chart. So what I mean by synthesize is when you look at your entire chart, you're going to have your sun somewhere. It's going to be in some house, in some sign. Might be early in the sign, might be late in the sign, and then it's going to be connected to other things in the chart. It might be in a conjunction where something else is close to it. It might be in an opposition where something is directly across from it on the opposite end of the chart. It could be a quintile or a biquintile or any one of the major aspects where it's a square or a trine or something like that. So you can know what each of those things mean individually. However, when you look at your life as a whole, it's more of like, what do they mean for me? How can I put all of these little pieces of information together in a way that makes sense to me and I can actually pick up something useful for my life? So first of all, let's just go back to the basics. What is a Yod? A Yod is where you have 3 objects or points in a certain configuration. 2 of the points are going to be 60 degrees away from each other, and then those 2 points are going to each be 150 degrees away from an apex or a focal point. I'm going to put up a little picture so you know what the heck I'm talking about. Now, the question I always get is, what about orbs? What do we look at when it comes to orbs? So the traditional Yod is the most easy to decipher the orbs because it's exactly 2 signs away and then exactly 5 signs away. So if something is 0 degrees of Aries and 1 degree of Gemini, that is going to be 61 degrees away from each other. Now, if it's 1 degree of Aries and then 1 degree of Scorpio, that's going to be exactly 150 degrees away from each other. Now, the Scorpio to Gemini is going to be 149 degrees away from each other. And so when you look at that configuration, it's going to be within a 1 degree orb because they're not all at 0 degrees of something. There's a 1 degree kind of margin of error on either side, and that is your orb. So it's going to be in a 1 degree orb. So when you're looking at this Yod, one thing that you kind of have to be careful of is if you widen your orb more than just 1 to 3 degrees, it gets into other configurations. So if you look at a golden Yod, that's going to be 72 degrees away from each other, and then 144 degrees and another 144 degrees. That 144 degrees is technically within a 6 degree orb of a traditional Yod or a finger of God because it's 150 is 6 degrees away from 144. So that's the part where it can get kind of tricky because then you start to bleed over into other aspects and it's not a true quincunx anymore. So now what I want to look at is the nature of the aspects. So you have 2 quincunxes and then a sextile. So with the sextile, it's going to be 60 degrees away from each other. This is the energy of Venus. It's half the energy of a trine. So you don't have this beautiful, loving, connected energy of a trine. You have half that. So you literally have half the luck, half the attention. It's definitely less positive energy than a trine. However, it's still very positive. It's still definitely 2 things lending a helping hand to each other. And usually what that looks like is almost like a juggler who never drops a ball. So if you have these things in 2 houses away from each other, say it's the 8th and the 10th house that you're looking at, the 8th house has to do with this deep psychology and death and debt and sex and social taboos and all this stuff that we don't necessarily want to talk about. And then the 10th house has to do with the energy we put out into the world, our career center, much in authority we've been in our lifetime, what we're building towards, our career trajectory and path and all this stuff. And so it's like, if you have something in the 8th house and it's very closely sextiling something in the 10th house, again, it's almost that juggler who never drops a ball, where it's like, the more you grow in 8th house aspects, the more you will grow in your career center aspects, where the more you dive into maybe your relationship to debt or your relationship to finances, other people's money, stuff like that, the greater you have the ability to grow in your career. It could also take more of a psychological turn, where it could be the more you analyze your own psychology, the more you're able to dive deep into your own personal taboos and fears and all of those things, the better you are as a manager, the better you are as this authority figure in your life. So those two things, they want to play ball. They're doing well at connecting to each other. Now, when it comes to the quincunx aspect, that is the aspect of blindness. I really can never talk about these things without crediting Rick Levine, because he has gone into great depth. He actually did me the great honor of coming on my channel and giving some of his insights for these things. So definitely check out the video listed below. I will link that if you guys want to hear it directly from him. But he did describe this as more of an irritating aspect. It's like it's almost there, but not quite, where you can't see it. It's this aspect of blindness. So one of the analogies that I like to use when describing this is, so you are walking down a hall and somebody else is walking down a hall, and there is this meeting in the middle. Now, you can hear the person coming. You might recognize what their shoes sound like on the floor. You might hear them jingle their keys. They might cough, something like that. You might have a pretty good idea of who it is. However, you don't know who it is until you meet in the middle, until there is that moment of revelation. However, that never happens with a quincunx. You never get that moment of, okay, this is all together, this is fitting together. Like, there's always going to be that irritation, that cause for action, that cause for resolution that you always feel, but you never quite complete. So because of this, because you have that energy shooting into that apex from those really positively connected planets or points at the end, you have this itch that can't be scratched. You have this calling that you can't rest until you've at least put some energy into. And typically there is this point of conflict. There is this thing in your life holding you back, where it's like, I need to do this thing. I'm very drawn to this thing. However, I don't know if it's for me. I don't know if I am allowed to fulfill this. That's another reason why I think why I think calling it the finger of God is so appropriate, is because it's like God is pointing you in a direction. It is this calling that you were born with, that you came into the world drawing your first breath with this beautiful finger of God in your chart, pointing you in a certain direction, saying this is a destiny that you need to fulfill while you're here. A lot of people are born being able to do whatever they want. They can be a barista, they can be a novelist, they can be a medical scribe. You know, it's like their career takes all these different twists and turns, and they're perfectly happy through all of them. It's just this energy of curiosity where they're just like, oh yeah, I did that and that was fun, and you know, now I'm doing this and that's fun. Someone with a Yod in their chart, it might not be in a career center, so that might be a useless analogy, but it might be in their career center, and they cannot rest until they've put energy into the apex, until they have actually made progress towards that goal. Now, this can be very overwhelming when you first find it in your chart and you're just like, okay, that is something that I've been called to. However, I'm 45, I have a family, I can't just drop everything and go to med school. You're right, you can't. Life might not allow you to do that. However, you can put energy into that. You can set aside 30 minutes a week 10 minutes a day, whatever really works for your schedule, and put energy into it. That could be meditating a solution for you to start with something later. It could also be journaling out what steps you would need to take to make that happen for yourself. It could also be just, reading articles, setting up an Etsy shop for you to start selling something that you feel like you've really been called to do. You don't have to eat the entire elephant in one bite. It can be one step at a time. And the more incremental it is, the more you're going to build and the faster you're going to build. So coming back to synthesizing your Yod, because of this aspect, it's going to make whatever placement you have at the apex with some type of conflict. So I'm going to give out a bunch of examples. Stick with me. Say you have Venus in Taurus in the second house. Oh, so beautiful. Venus in its home sign, in its first home sign, not even Libra, which is its second home sign. Venus in its first home sign in the second house. So abundance of money, being able to attract money and beauty and luxury and possessions like nobody's business, like just this amazing thing. However, it's the apex of your Yod. So there is some kind of aspect to it holding you back, making you feel like that is not for you. So you could be struggling with generational poverty. You could be in some type of religious or cultural community where wealth is looked down upon, where it's not part of your values, where poverty and humility is part of your values. And so it's like you have this amazing aspect that is so useful and helpful to you. However, it's at the apex of your Yod. So it's not only something that you have to do, you have to fulfill and cultivate, but it comes with conflict. It comes with that energy of holding you back so that you can slingshot forward into whatever this destiny point needs to be. Now this is going to be a personal example, but a Yod I have actually has a Mercury apex in the 12th house in Scorpio. So if I just had that aspect, I would be a very deep thinker. I would be somebody who accumulates a lot of information from an internal place because that 12th house has so much to do with deep psychology. But with Mercury there, that has to do with being able to communicate it out well. And since I have it in Scorpio, that is going to have a lot of the energy of kind of like the sniper, where you are quiet for a long time, and then when you do decide to talk, it is to the point, it is very specific. So good aspect, right? Like, I mean, that sounds like it would be a positive thing in your life. However, for me, it's at the apex of my Yod. So that comes with almost debilitating ADHD and dyslexia. So it is very hard for me to read. I prefer to listen to anything. I am very good at listening to things and getting information out of it. However, you give me a 2-paragraph email, and if I can't get the computer to read it to me, it's very hard for me to go in and decipher any kind of meaning out of it. Also, ADHD, starting a lot of projects that I'm not able to finish. So since that's the apex of my Yod, I always feel like I have a story in me. I always feel like there's, a story that I could write or something that I need to say to people because I have that apex as Mercury, where I have this urge towards this message that I need to tell people, that I need to get out of there. So the things that I've done in my life, I've written and published, self-published, but written and published a book. And then I not only have one YouTube channel, I actually have 3, where again, that Mercury and Scorpio, I like to communicate small bits of information very quickly. This is turning into a very long video, so I apologize for that. However, there's a lot I wanted to say here, so, you don't have to watch the whole thing, it's cool. So if I just had that aspect, that would be, a pretty cool aspect, it's fine. However, since it's an apex, there is some type of need, there's some kind of driving force psychologically for me to put energy into that apex. However, there's also things holding me back. There are things that are not allowing me to have that easy flow of energy, but that more of annoying barriers that I have to get over in order to fulfill that apex. So when you take your Yod, look at the placement of that apex. Do the math and make sure you know everything about that first. So what planet is it? What is it? What energy does it represent? How is it showing up in your life with what sign it's in? And then what area of your life is it showing up in what house? And then once you have a pretty firm grasp on that, you can actually step back and look and say, okay, but what's the conflict? What is the energy that's pulling me back? However, I keep feeling this calling. I keep feeling this need to push energy forward into it again. So after this, I am going to do a video just on Yod activation. I hope that helps you guys. I know that's a question that I've addressed in the past on a Q&A, but I mean, for the life of me, I can't find it. So when people ask me that, I have no video to connect them with. So I'm going to do that now where it's just on that and I don't talk about anything else, so that when people need to go back and look at that, they're able to find it easily. If you guys have any questions about this, please let me know. I will answer as many as I can. I have started taking consultation appointments again. If anyone is interested in them, please shoot me an email. I'm gonna link my email below, and then I can put you on the wait list there and let you know as appointments become available what the options are. So thank you guys so much for sticking around. I'm happy to be back doing videos. I took about a 3-month break doing them, so it's good to be back talking about what I love, and I hope you guys are doing well. Take care.